At some point from now until you die, do you think you'll ever get into another fight?
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
Nice. God, I hope so. Uh,
What's the most efficient path to victory against this particular opponent?
He's dropping off for the choke here. We could see the finish. It's looking tight. Tight at Alba.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Everyday Jiu Jitsu podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kwan. The Everyday Jiu Jitsu podcast is everything you need to know about Jiu Jitsu. Today I have with me Mr. Lance Gibson Sr. Welcome to the show, Lance.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for being here. Guys, if you want to support the show, check out the links in the bottom. Appreciate everybody for tuning in and supporting. So, Lance, I guess I first met you because, obviously in this area and in Canada, you're kind of known as a pioneer of mixed martial arts. And I can remember from the first day I started jiu-jitsu, there was a gym in Port Moody called Gibson's, and it was known for being one of the first places that you could train MMA in the city. And Port Moody is your gym is probably about a 15-minute drive from my house if traffic is good. It's about a 20 to 30-minute drive from my academy. We're a couple cities over. And you're in this cute little town called Port Moody. It's like a little port town here in the Lower Mainland. And everybody knew about Gibson's MMA. And like I said, you're kind of known as a pioneer in MMA here. Of course, for those of you who don't know, Lance is, you actually competed in ADCC once, which is really cool. Obviously, I need to ask you about that. And also, you're a UFC veteran, and your wife is Julia Budd, who was a Bellator women's champion, and your son is Lance Gibson Jr., who I believe is also Bellator. I believe he's a lightweight champion, right? Was he the champion?
Not champ, but lightweight. He had one of the longest winning streaks in the lightweight division until we
Yeah, and
left there.
he's pretty young, right? Like he's still working his way up to. I'm pretty sure when I train with him, he's he's talking about getting into the UFC and trying to get to that platform. So, actually, we sort of linked up because your son invited me to do some training with him, some grappling training, and I said, hey, I'd love to have you on my show sometime, and here we are.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, how did you get into fighting?
Oh shoot, man! It's kind of in my grained in me. I was always a fighter ever since I was a kid. I fought all through elementary. I fought through high school. Fought in the streets quite often. And there's something about fighting, and it was like it was just something I always loved to do. I just loved the feeling about going at it with somebody bare knuckle. It didn't matter any place, any time. So I pretty much wrestled through. I had a German teacher in grade 5 that taught me freestyle wrestling before school, and then wrestled in senior high. And then after senior high, I had really nothing to do. So I was doing movies and stunt work. And I went down to Seattle to do a conservatory program for theater. And I was doing a play down there in the Fringe Festival. And I kept on going by this Muay Thai gym. And it kept on being closed. And I was like, I got to get back into fighting because I can't fight now in the streets, go to jail. So I pretty much wanted to keep it going. There was not really organized wrestling up here. So then the gym, thank God this gym was closed. It was just a kickboxing school. So then I ended up going to a boxing club. And because I was a tough guy, they just kept throwing me in against pro boxers. And, my offense was good, but I didn't have any defense. And they weren't teaching me anything. So I kept on coming up bloody broken noses, and
they didn't want to teach you the defense part.
Yeah, right. So and I was going against and it was like who they were building, but it was like okay. So I left there, and then I ended up finding actually Haru Shimanashi and Matt Hume at AMC, and I walked in there, and Haru was my Muay Thai coach, and I learned from him. I just kind of brought my street edge into the ring, and he polished me up, and Matt was always asking me to come over. I said, "Oh, you wrestle?" And I said, "Yeah, I wrestle, but I wanted to focus on the Muay Thai." And then Chemo, if you remember from UFC, I'm not sure, the early UFC's
Of
Chemo,
course.
he was getting ready for the Shamrock fight, and nobody would spar him. And I came in, I said, Haru goes, "Well, you want to spar him?" I said, "Yeah, I'll spar him, no problem." So we went 5-minute rounds, shoot boxing.
Jesus.
Shoot boxing, so that was kickboxing with takedowns. He was about 280 back then. I was about probably 199. And I remember the first punch, he stepped him with a real hard jab, and I slipped and I went down a bit, and I was like, and he was like celebrating. I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no. I'm gonna lay it in." So we went 5-minute rounds of war. And it was for takedowns and boxing and kickboxing, and it was pretty even. And then after, um, my coach was like, "There you go," and I was like, I went home. I said, "You know what? This guy's in the UFC. I can make a living at this.
Yeah.
I haven't even done anything but street fighting, and wrestling. So that's where the day I decided that I'm gonna make a living at this."
And how old were you?
I say I was 26.
So you had, oddly enough, you had mentioned, and obviously I want to start talking about a little bit later about like the training and those sparring sessions and things like that, how you approached fights. But you had mentioned that you had a German coach who was kind of like teaching you a little bit of wrestling. What was his name, and where was this?
He was his name was Mr. Pewitz, we used to call him. It was in Cape Horn Elementary School.
Cape Horn.
And before class, he was like a real rough German dude, and he was like everybody was scared of him, but he liked guys who were rough and athletic, and he just said that, "You guys want to learn some wrestling in the morning before school." So we'd move all the desks aside, and
This
we'd
wasn't even
wrestle
in
on
the gym. This was in the classroom.
Yeah, I was in the classroom floor, man.
Sick.
Yeah. Yeah. So we moved the desks out, and we get there early, and he taught us wrestling, and I was like, yeah, I just loved it.
Nice. So your interest in fighting was kind of a necessity to be able to continue this fetish for street fighting that you had developed as a youth.
Yeah.
Can you sort of describe your upbringing? Like, what was that like?
I grew up in, well, we'll go from where I moved from Vancouver to from a child from about six. I was born in Toronto, moved out here. We drove across Canada. We were in East Van for a while, down in Windsor area, Vancouver, when I was about 3 to 4-ish. And then I think 5, we moved to Coquitlam. And then it was like, I had the best parents. I had my mom's Jamaican, my dad's Scottish. Outdoors, hard workers, honest people, a good family. We didn't have much money. We just made it to make it into the neighborhood, that we were. So we had to work hard. Both my parents worked hard. I remember going to school and coming home with my house key around my neck. That's what it was kind of like back then. But it was nothing but love, and they always supported me. So, I had a really good upbringing, good morals, and good role models for me. So, but the neighborhood I grew into, nobody really looked like me. It's kind of it was down in East Van, it was different down there. But when I come out to the suburbs, it wasn't. I was the only black kid around. So anywhere I went, I got either called names or picked on. So my dad always taught me how to fight. He did kung fu, so I would, and judo, so I would learn a little bit from him. But I was still little; I was 6 years old. But we would learn it he teach us in the front room, and my dad lifted weights. So even from a young kid, I lifted weights, and I was always taught never let anybody disrespect you. So it was like, after my first fight, I remember it was like, okay, so I just, next time it would happen. It was always an everyday thing. So if I go to the swimming pool, or go to the shopping mall, or go to 7-Eleven, I was always fighting. you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something like that it's got a love for it. It was like a bit of a,
An addiction.
yeah, a
That
bit of a
feeling.
rush, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any like crazy street fights that just straight up got out of hand, or someone got hurt really bad? Like street fights nowadays seem a little bit different. It almost seems like there's a lot more risks, and people are packing weapons, or they're willing to do really really stupid shit. One of my kids' students, kid's 14, he just got stabbed the other day in Port Moody. I don't even know if you've heard about that. They were playing football. They're playing football, and this guy rolled up and with his friends or whatever, and they got into an argument, and they started scrapping like in broad daylight right across from the breweries there. I mean, there's families. This is like a very Vancouver has a homeless problem. This is not one of those areas. This is like a nice area. It's a nice suburban area. And one of the kids pulled out a shank and actually stabbed this kid in the ass. Luckily he's fine. But, like kids are, man, I don't want to get into any street fights nowadays because I don't know what people are capable of. So back then, was there kind of that like, I don't know if honor or camaraderie, between guys having a street fight existed, or what was that like?
Well, there's two times, two eras, two different kind of things. So like when you fought in school, it would be, okay, you got to wait till after school. And say I went to Montgomery. So then you're going to go fight on probably some older kid or who's picked on you, and you go fight, and there's probably about 300-400 people around in the ravine, and it's you guys are squaring off in the ravine. So a lot of crap happened there regardless. It's just as dangerous. So it was dangerous back then, and I think it was like you had further people watching you. So that's kind of prepared me for actually fighting on the stage. And then as time would go on, as I got older, there was all the knives, the machetes, the guns, they were all there when I was fighting. Nothing's changed. I think these kids are just weaker and a bit more soft, so they snap to it right away. But there was all the swarming and the knives and shooting back when I was in the streets as well.
Assuming nobody dies, would you say that street fighting is a good thing or a bad thing for a young man?
I think honestly, more kids need to get punched in the mouth. More people need to get punched in the mouth so they know what happens when you say things or when you do things. And I think isn't it Washington that has the mutual combat law? So if two people agree, you can't get charged.
I would not be surprised. I don't know the laws in Washington, even though it's like less than an hour drive away for us. It's where we live right on the border here. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that is a thing where you can have like a mutual combat. I might be wrong, but I thought that exists here too. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, if it did, it never saved me half the time because the guy would lie and say I started it when he picked on me, and I ended up beating
the black
him
guy
up,
did
so
it. He picked on me, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever like get taken to jail or arrested after a street fight, or did you were able to get out every time?
But a lot of times I wasn't a guy that would start the street fight, but I was a guy that if you picked on somebody else or you picked on me, or you challenged me, I'm gonna fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, it's not that I wasn't looking for it, but I would never say no.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And in a street fight situation, like there's no referee. It's almost like, I don't know if it's safer or less safe, the fact that there would be like a couple hundred people watching, because there's a lot of witnesses, and that you kind of govern yourself when it's you and someone else and there's no referee. So like, how do you know when you've won? Do you, I've seen a couple street fights. I've gotten into a couple, but I wouldn't say it was like, it was more like a knockout and run type thing, because you're getting swarmed by guys. Like in the situation I've been in, I'm not a striker, but I did knock a guy out once, and then instantly his buddies just started chasing me, and I was like, shit. Yeah. And like these guys were known to be carrying knives and stuff, so I ran into my buddy's house and I was able to escape. But like, what do the ends of these street fights look like? How do you know when to stop when there's nobody hired there to stop the street fight? Do you shake hands after, or is it bitter? You guys are bitter rivals whenever you see each other, or do you kind of that old cliche where you kind of gain respect for somebody after you fight them, and who knows, even down the line, you could become good friends with somebody that you fought. Did those types of things happen?
Okay, so generally, a lot of times, like, say, okay, a scenario of after school when there's 300 people around. Hey, man, it never ended when they hit the ground. There was soccer kicks. It was bad. It was bad. And somebody out of the crowd would generally, okay, that's enough. But it was dangerous, man.
Mhm.
And then I'm thinking about, I'm not a kind of guy that I never really picked the fight, and it wasn't a mutual fight. It was more like somebody disrespected me. So I was like, I'm pretty vicious in the streets, and
Mhm.
I'm all I'm saying is it's pretty hard to pull me off, and that's a scary thing too.
Well, yeah.
You know, I got I thank God that nothing really worse happened, but it's like when you to get me to fight, it's a point that I don't stop, and that's the problem. So that's where I got old enough and kind of realized fighting the streets is I gotta channel it somehow.
It's funny because now when I pop my head in your school, I see you. Hey, Lance, like you're like the biggest sweetheart ever. I couldn't imagine you being a vicious street fighter, but I guess everybody's got a past, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you
Yeah,
said
we
your
set up.
parents were like, uh like good parents. They were respectable people, good morals. How did they feel about you coming home after street fights? Did they know about this, or how did they
Oh
feel
yeah, well,
about it?
because they send you home for after school. It's funny because my parents would go, and they know that I don't start them, so they usually know why it happened. I would call my mom and go, "Hey, mom, I'm home from." I'd call her at work, and I go, "Hey, mom, I'm home from school, and I got in a fight." And she goes, "Did you win?" That's what they asked.
Good mom.
Yeah, my mom and dad always be like, "Did you win?" Yeah, okay. They know I wasn't doing anything bad, but they
Right.
just knew.
And this is the thing with I hear it all the time being like a jiu-jitsu coach. Like I've had, maybe half a dozen kids now that I've taught that have gotten into altercations at school. And whenever the parents come and tell me about it, the first thing I ask is, "Did you win?" And they always win because jujitsu,
Yeah,
like it.
right.
I'm sure a lot of the street fights that you guys had hit the ground at some point, right? It's just bound to happen, right? And I think nowadays, just with the school system and the way that we're kind of like demasculize mask what's the word I'm looking
Yeah,
for? We're kind of making
yeah,
it like wrong to fight. Like it's
yeah,
masculinity is bad and fighting is bad, and it's
yeah,
basically never okay to fight. It's like, okay, that's fine, but like there's bullies who don't play by those rules. There's bullies that will kick your fucking ass, and a lot of the time some of these kids are like basically trained to not fight back, or to you can only go and tell an adult, and if you fight back, or you get into a fight, like your parents aren't going to have your back, the principal's not going to have your back. And I've seen situations like that, and I think that it's really, really bad because, like you said, a lot of kids nowadays don't know what it's like to be punched in the face. I've been punched in the face multiple times, and like when you're on social media talking shit, and there's never any face you're talking to, there's never any repercussions, like you don't feel like there's anything wrong with saying exactly what's on your mind. But say that to somebody's face in person, and you get popped in the face, it'll make you think twice about saying things. So I
absolutely.
I feel like a lot of kids would benefit from like getting into a fight. Like I said, granted they don't get stabbed or die or something like that. It's
Yeah.
actually could be a very good experience for a lot of these young males.
Yeah, I think so, exactly. Well, in Japan, you take that in school, and I've taught in the high schools for years and stuff. But I've done high school programs, and I think making it a part of P, or making it a subject, like studying the art. You can pick your art,
Yeah.
say in kung fu, jiu-jitsu, boxing, whatever.
Yep.
But feeling that physical contact and understanding, you don't want to fight because you've already done the training in school, so you don't really want to fight. If you got a proper teacher who's teaching you mentally and physically at the same time, I think it's a must. They should be having. I think it would solve a lot
For
of problems.
sure.
But I remember teaching in a lot of the high schools, and it got to the point. I remember when we first started teaching, I grappled the whole. the whole 10th grade, the whole 11th grade, the whole 12th. I was cranking them in ankle locks. It was bad. We were doing,
Foot locking all
we
the
were doing,
high school kids.
we were tapping the kid didn't tap out, we'd pop it. It was like, it was
Oh my
bad.
God.
But then as time goes on, that I would discipline the kids too, and I'd teach them a way of thinking and have integrity and discipline. And
Yeah.
if one kid didn't want to do it, I'd make the rest of the class do push-ups and that kid count.
Yeah.
And then I started getting letters from the parents, complaining not being too hard on the kids. And I just told the school, I said, God help them if they ever get put in a situation they have to defend themselves.
Right.
I said, I don't care. Don't take my course, but this is the way I'm gonna do it. And we taught in the school for over probably 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started getting, as you said, in time it got softer and softer. And I kind of said, it's not my flavor anymore. I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays we're so fucking pussified up here. They're like some of the agendas they push in our schools, it's like they'd rather our kids fucking question their gender rather than learn how to defend themselves. And we're in such a comfortable society now. Everything is so comfortable and convenient that the last thing that a lot of us think about is like what would actually happen if we had to defend ourselves. Me and you were in the gym every day training, and like we're around fighters, so we know. It's almost like when you do martial arts, you almost become more of a peaceful person because you realize like how dangerous a fight is, how one wrong move and someone's life can get ruined, right? And it's almost like you gain more of a respect for your mortality, and you don't want to put yourself in unnecessary risk. But I remember my first experience with MMA. It was your school, Gibson's, came to Riverside Secondary. I was going to high school there, and it was Ryan Diaz and Craig Sloan who came in, and these guys are jacked and cauliflower ears, and that was back when Ryan was like young, and I'm pretty sure he was active at the time, and they were like, we're gonna do some grappling or whatever, and I'm like, well, I've done some middle school wrestling for a couple of years, so we jump in, and like Craig's fucking throwing me in arm bars and shit. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck is this shit? This is crazy. And shortly after that, I got into Jiu Jitsu with Don at West Coast, and like, man, kids need that stuff. I really do think that the more martial arts that the next generation does, the more they learn to fight, the better society will get. And that was kind of Jigoro Kano, the guy who invented judo. That was his sort of philosophy on judo, was it's not just about defending yourself, but just if everybody learns judo, then society just improves. Like everybody gets to a better level. The society becomes more respectful, and it just improves on a general level as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it should be mandatory for every child, male or female. It should especially female. If I had I do have a daughter, and she can fight. I had to actually tell her to stop fighting, junior sister to stop fighting in school, beating the boys up. And she's a pretty girl too. But it's like, you're gonna learn.
Yeah. And so I think it's Saudi Arabia, is it? Or Abu Dhabi? I can't remember. The jiu-jitsu is like the national sport. I heard recently, which is amazing. Like, imagine there was a government funded grappling program in Canada. The thing is that it's still, I think the Canadian government is just so soft. Like, I don't know if they could ever put a combat sport in as a national, like an academic program. But man, I would love to see something like that. And I think we would see a lot of change over the generations as that comes into play. Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
How has your approach to MMA changed now compared to before? So you were talking earlier about sparring with chemo, and I assume that must have just, like, what does sparring look like now compared to back then? Sounds like it was a fucking slugfest back then.
It was like when my first times when I went with chemo, you're going with a guy, and I'm just a guy off the street, so it's fresh meat for him, so he's going hard, so I'm going hard. But I've always been a pretty smart athlete in the fact that if somebody goes hard, then I'm gonna go. And if you're acting like you're gonna fight me for real, then I'm gonna take it even street level, even in the gym. But if there's two athletes we're trying to get better, I know because I wrestled, so I know what you're supposed to do.
Mm.
You know, where it's the stories of I grew up in the times where it was like UFC 1 or 2. So this is when the
Hair
Gracie
pulling.
tapes were up. Yeah, and yeah, guard pulling and the Gracie tapes were out. And this is when the challenges, like people, I tell my students now, they're like, "What, Mr. Gibson? What?" I go, "Yeah, dude. Like somebody could walk through my door dojo and I'd be in the middle of class and challenge me right then.
Yeah.
And I would take the challenge and I'd have the school students sit on the side of the mat and I'd beat the living crap out of it.
Yeah.
And then drag them out of the school. That happened numerous occasions. I'm going through my tapes now, so because I have some of those challenge matches on VHS.
That's amazing. How do you even like convert VHS to like, how would you put that online even? I don't even know.
Oh, I got a really crazy story. It's a more recent one, but I'm going to put this one online because somebody had actually attacked me in my school.
Wow.
In later years. And that's another story I can tell you about, but I'm actually going to put that up and do a story about it. I got my VH. So all our Oregon State Jiu Jitsu tournaments and all these ones that we used to go down, like Hickson, he back in the day, he used to do all the videography for his stuff. So we did it at the same time. We're just like, that's what we did. So I have all the training matches. I have what we're eating. I have all the ice baths. We were doing all that stuff, the animal exercises. We were doing all that stuff way back in the day. I have all that stuff. Junior, you have him on the tape doing that as 2 years old on the tapes, going back and forth. And so I'm going through the tapes now, and I've got a place that switches it over to put it on computer now.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And
so I can.
Are you gonna put those on like your YouTube channel so we can watch those?
Yeah, I'm thinking about. I'm gonna get this one where this guy attacked me in my gym at a party I had for the students, and it didn't turn out very good for him.
Was he trained?
And well, this is a story. So
yeah, let's have it.
Yeah, this is a story. This is how one of the gyms that you know of began because of me. I had probably one of the top fight schools in North America. I had a lot of guys fighting TKO. I don't claim any of the fighters anymore because I only claim the fighters that stayed with the same philosophy as me. But most of the guys that have schools nowadays, they were my students back in the day. And you know, a lot of people they try to erase history, but you can't. I know what it is, but I don't need them. I don't promote them because it's just not my philosophy about life. But so I had all these top fighters, and you know, it's like having a stable of pit bulls, and you train the pit bulls to fight, and once they get a taste of blood, that pit bull can turn on you, right? So it's I had built this fight team, and I had built this gym. I bought the place. I had this beautiful gym. It was a place to be. And when you want to be the place to be, and you're doing all this, you'll get good people and a lot of bad people.
You get a lot of haters.
Yeah, a lot of haters, and some of those haters are the ones that you're teaching.
Mm.
You know, and so long story short, I had this party for one of my students that survived the tsunami. He was in the tsunami in Thailand, so I pulled the mats road. I put tables, wine, roasted pig, all kinds of stuff.
This is a banquet you're talking about. This is a function, a celebration.
In my gym, yeah, in my gym. And I have the videotape to prove it. And one of my heavyweight fighters had lost his heavyweight match in the TKO a couple weeks before. So when people, when you get weak fighters who lose, who do they want to blame? They want to blame their coach, not themselves. So he had this inner hatred in him, I guess. And he had a crew that he had brought over there. So we are at the party, and I'm at the party talking to somebody's wife by the bar. And I kind of looked to the side. I actually didn't even look to the side. I got hit from the side, not knowing I got hit from the side, and I stumbled, and then I got up and went at the guy. And I'll give you a little thing of what happened before. So,
like he suckered you.
He suckered me with rings on every.
Wow.
And he's about 6'6", 300 pounds, big dude. And I trained him for 2 years privately. He actually was an ex-Nazi actually, and I made him take all his tattoos off and follow me. And I wasn't gonna. At first I was gonna beat the crap out of him when he first came to me, and then I talked to my coach Matt Hume, and he goes, "Well, people are generally weak people, maybe it's better he follows you, right?" So I said, "Okay." Well, I trained him for 2 years privately. Um, Made him take all his tattoos off that were had like garbage on them, and he actually became somewhat of a good friend, like a good client and somewhat of a friend. Well, whatever happened, you can see on the tape. They started. He was a weak person. They got him to do the dirty work for him. So back into the fight, hit me. I turn around, and then it was on. I laid the boots to him bad, dude, and I put him in a coma in the party in the gym. And that's where everything in life just changed. So they drug him out. This guy attacked me. They drug him out. They took him to the hospital. He was in a coma for 5 days. I thought I was going to jail for attempted murder or manslaughter.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, maybe you're even thinking like, "Fuck, this guy might not make it. He might not wake up."
I didn't think he was going to make it, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I taught a couple cops, and I showed them the tape, and they go, "Well, he's been in and out of jail. You're a good person. That was definitely self-defense. You'll probably get off, but you gotta get a good lawyer." But
Hmm.
and I'm like, but at this point, you attack me in my dojo. It's like I don't care. I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
I
might as
don't
well
really care.
might as well have broken into your house.
Exactly. But it was a whole crew of guys that kind of one in general, but the guys that followed them who had set it up, that were my fighters, my students. And that's why, and from that day on, they opened their own gym out in Langley. And that's where one of the gyms they're pretty well known, how it began. They were all my students, and they all try to turn.
I think I might know the one you're talking about too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
Everyone around here knows.
yeah. And that guy came out of his coma and survived. And then funny thing, I was at the MFC and I saw all of them. It was just me and my wife Jules. She was just a fighter back then. I was there with one by myself, and then a group of them were coming down with the same dude that I put in the coma, and they all were coming down the hallway. And I went right up to them. I was like ready to go again, and I was outnumbered, but they backed down. They're just cowards. That's what they were.
Yeah.
But that was a scenario in my life, that just one scenario of running a martial arts school I could tell you, do a movie about, was that one. And the weird thing is, I didn't have to even retaliate, because they were going to send people by my school to do this and that. And I'm like, well, I'm a modern day warrior, man. You come by my house, you come by my gym, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
So, this is my dojo. This is what it is. I'll protect it with my life, so it really don't matter to me. And karma took care of a lot of those guys. A lot of them are not here anymore.
Yeah. Where was that gym? Was that in Port Moody?
Yeah, it was the one on the corner I had,
Yeah.
that I owned, and then I rented out now.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
Like when
Crazy.
let's say you were preparing for a fight for like UFC. I think you fought at UFC 24, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
So this is like UFC, and it's like, it's not in its very, very infancy, but it is still like pre-modern. There's like different styles. Guys are not always well-rounded. Like, what does fight preparation look like when you're getting ready for a fight a couple months out compared to now? Because nowadays we just know so much more about fighting. We know so much more about combining the different styles, and we know generally more of what works, what is effective, what's effective on the fence, what effective grappling is for MMA, what, the type striking, everything now is just more advanced than it was back then. Like, what are some of the differences that the advancements that you've sort of seen as a fighter and a coach over the years?
Well, the science of weight, I think more of nutrition and weight loss. We were doing bodybuilding diets back then that weren't allow you to have proper performance. I think 98% of them were juiced. I'm not to say they aren't juiced now, but they were juiced back then to the
For
T.
sure.
They were, but I always knew that they were mentally weak to be juiced and the gas. There's different drugs now. I was always a pretty well rounded. My whole philosophy of Gibson MMA was equal stand, equal ground. So I was always a wrestler, and I did submission wrestling. So Matt Hume, thank God, he's one of the best grapplers out there and produced them. He taught me everything on the ground, so I had that, and then I could fight on my feet. So it wasn't much different than it is now for me. But other people, you'd have to just stick to your one game. So when I would train and say for UFC 24, I was supposed to fight Vladimir Matachenko, a Russian Olympic wrestler. Big dude, tough, hard punch, and a really good Greco-Roman wrestler. And then, so I was focused on him having big guys, big wrestlers trying to get in on me and me moving and this and that. And then 2 weeks before, they give me the World Muay Thai champion. So I totally switched it up, my training. But didn't, because I was already equal at both. So I just kind of changed my philosophy a bit, strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, it was hard to find a lot of sparring partners, especially up in BC.
Was sparring back then in the gym, like, was it as safe as it is now? Was it more like these guys got something to prove and they go harder? Like I've kind of heard rumors that MMA training back in the day, guys would just constantly go hard, whereas nowadays they realize that it makes more sense to kind of keep some tread on the tires when you can, like touch spar and not always go so hard when you're practicing, and then save the real damage for the actual main event, when you actually step into the cage. Were guys just like trying to take your head off in training back then most of the time? Were they just like, were they aware of intelligent training?
Yeah, they did. They did in certain aspects. They did. But then when you train with somebody at a higher level, like at AMC or with Maurice Smith, he was a K1 kickboxer. He's like, Lance, we don't spar that. We don't spar hard like that. So I got that knowledge from him early. Yeah, I had those rough days in there. I do spar, but I loved it. So I was young and it was good. So it didn't really matter. I'm finding guys nowadays are going too hard. Honestly, it's like we go to other gyms down the States, and it's like I pick who I want my wife or my son to go with. I want somebody controlled, no injuries.
Right.
I save it for the gym. I go to the gym, half these gyms, and a lot of these people haven't made the UFC as a big show, but they're walking CTE zombies.
I know,
because they've been knocked out in the gym too much.
Oh, it's insane.
And I see it. So it's like, I don't know. I still think they're going too hard now. It all depends where you're at.
What do you think that young up and coming fighters should focus on to like get to that next level so that they get a chance at the big show?
I think you get a good amateur career and you build yourself slowly. Don't be in a race. Get a good school with a coach with a good mindset who cares and has empathy and cares about you and your health and your training, and give back to your school, give back to your coach. Have that pride, and it goes a long way. And then you promote yourself like with your skills, and earn your wins, and then take your journey as it goes, and don't blame anybody but yourself. Because nobody else, you lost, not your coach, not your team. You know what I'm saying? And go in there and eat it and get better. Empty your cup every time. And then this person's journey might not be same as my journey, and understand that, and just focus on yourself and care about your teammates. Care about, about that kind of thing. And you'll go a lot farther that way.
Mm-hmm. Did Junior always love fighting? Like, when did you know he was going to be a pro fighter?
Oh, I raised him from the day he crawled to be a fighter. Like him and his brother and sister both. It was like animal exercises around the whole house. That's all he did. He grew up in the gym. Like the gym was his monkey bars. I mean, like he was crawling on the Stairmaster. He was hitting the pad. He was doing arm bars before he. As soon as he could walk, I had him doing arm bars on me. It was I ate Brett Reeves and slept it. So it was like he was dressed in the stuff. So it was just like I knew he was gonna be something for greatness. And I think there was one time when he was probably about 5, he was like, "Oh, Dad, I don't want to train today." I said, "Oh, you don't want to train today? Cool, no problem. He's still gonna come to the gym with me." So we got to the gym, and all the kids were on the mat, and I gave him the broom. And I told him, "You're gonna be sleeping for the next hour." He never said that again, ever.
I'll just train. Yeah. I pulled my son out of the program because he was a little bit too young for it. But I at some point here, I'm like, listen, you're going back in because you're enjoying this hiatus a little bit too much. You need to go in there and get beat up a little bit. It's part of it. Yeah, cool. Okay. If you could do it all over again, what would you change? Just everything.
If I could do it all over again, I would I wouldn't change anything, but probably my last fight, I would have not listened to the aura of Japan and listened to the president of Shudo tell me that, "Oh, you need to fight more cleaner. You need to, don't fight so dirty." And I thought, "Oh, okay, I'll beat this guy without it's not dirty. I was just rough, and that's how I was beating the Japanese fighters back then. It's just being some street edge. It wasn't anything outside the rules."
What
Like,
what did he mean by dirty? Sorry, can you sort of elaborate on that? Like, were you like
So
eye poking or?
No. So what happened was when I first fought Suda the first time, it was supposed to be for the world title, and they changed it for the number one. And when I won, they made me the number one rank with the champion vacant. And I'm like, well, I just number 1 and 2 guys just fought. It should have been for the title. But I had tore my ankle the night of weigh-ins. I tore my ankle on the tatami mats. I was dehydrated, and I went over and I tore all the ligaments in my ankle. So then
Fuck.
the driver, you have a Japanese driver there, and he obviously he's gonna tell my opponent. So we taped the ankle up, and they got me painkillers. They were gonna put Novocaine in my leg, and I said, well, I might not be able to move my foot properly. So they gave me a ton of painkillers before the fight. And but they gave me Tylenol, which thins your blood. And so first punch of the fight, and then the driver told him which ankle to go after. So I couldn't walk, and I'm going into this fight, and I'm going to Japan, and then first punch, my nose bled, and it just bled. And they're trying to do anything they can to have their guy win the championship. They're trying to say, we're going to stop the fight. So I started snorting my own blood and drinking my blood. And I'm trying to keep it in, but it won't, like, because I'm on these I'm like on 8 Tylenol or whatever they gave me. I couldn't read it on the package because it's in Japanese. And so then I was like, oh God, they're gonna try to stop this fight on me. So I kept snorting it in, and then he was trying to go after my ankle, trying to go after that. So at that point, I just started snorting my blood on him and then punching him in the face after, and it freaked him out. And I just kept snorting my blood in his face and beating the crap out of him. And I beat the crap out of him. And then we got back up. I won the fight, and they didn't make me the champion. They just said, "Oh, you're number 1 and he's number 2." So they brought me back to Japan, and they had me fight him again for the world title. And this was my last fight. And they said, President goes, "Oh, you're a very good fighter. You're a number 1 in Shudo, but we want you to be not as dirty and this and that." And I'm like, "Oh, well, they want me to be the champ. They want me to be honorable. Okay, bullshit." So every time I went to take him down, he'd scoot his butt out through the ropes. It was like 5 or 6 times when you watched the fight. I should have just soccer kicked him through the ropes in the head. I should have just beat the crap, but I was trying to be honorable. I kept on, let him back in. No, I shouldn't have did that. That was my biggest mistake.
That cost you the
That's
fight?
Yeah, I still won the fight, but they gave it to him.
What do you
And
mean?
he stayed 10.
Like you think you did enough, but they just like biasly picked him as the winner?
100%. Everybody in the crowd, even the Japanese crowd, was in shock. And
Wow.
and it was like, I look back at that and I'm like I'm telling, that's like tell Junior, never, you get vicious. You get vicious.
Yeah.
You do what you got to do. You don't got to cheat, but you do what you got to do. I should have just finished him every time he went through the ropes, but I didn't. I tried to be honorable, and there was no honor. And then I realized there was no honor. It doesn't matter where you are. There's no honor.
No.
There's no honor here. So
That's
I kinda
it's
learned- I
war
kinda learned a lot.
basically. It's basically fighting to the death, right? Until somebody stops you.
Exactly. That's exactly how I always thought about fighting in the cage. It was like I fight with the willingness to die, so I leave nothing. And that's the only day that I didn't really, I thought I could be honorable, so.
Do your losses ever haunt you?
No. I'm always okay with, I've been okay with my losses. There's been times where the loss wasn't necessary. It was something I was going through. I was going through a breakup of my business when I lost to Evan Tanner.
Mhm.
And I wasn't in shape. I just wasn't in shape. And then my business was, I was in Japan and I had a young kid running my business because I was having a business breakup. So it was hard mentally to deal with that. That I can't really say that was just a situation I wish I would have kind of dealt with better. Um, I had a loss one time. This is crazy. I was called to fight Tank Abbott in Super Brawl in Guam. That's after I fought Dan Severn. Tank Abbott dropped out like maybe 10 days. Dana pulled him out 10 days before the fight. So they got me this other guy, like Rocky Batiskin, 285-pound young kid. And I remember, I didn't take him seriously. And he ran across the ring and push kicked me. My arm went into, like in 5 seconds or 7 seconds, my arm went into the ropes. And I kind of laughed. And he got up and kneed me and knocked me out. And I was like, woke up and went after him. And then I realized, oh God, the fight's over.
Fuck.
And then, you know what? I learned something. I didn't dwell on it. I went and partied that night. I grappled incidentally the next day and lived my life and realized that will never happen again. I never underestimate anybody. And I just moved on from it.
Mhm.
I think if you, it's okay to be upset with your loss, but it can't go on for too long. You got to get back to work.
Right. Otherwise you dwell on it, it starts to eat at you and it could have some negative returns. Like that's now going beyond learning from your losses, right? That's like, it's almost like you're overly mourning and you can't move on and you can't put the next, put the next step ahead of the next foot in front of the other. Can we talk about ADCC in 1998 for a sec? Because you did compete at the World Championships. This must have been in Abu Dhabi because back then they were in Abu Dhabi, right? What was that experience like?
Oh, it was great. It was cool, and I wish I would even took it more serious. But it was kind of like this new thing. So it was like
right, like back then it really wasn't that big, right?
No, you heard about it. It was like in a movie. They were bringing on. It was like Bloodsport. That's what we kind of figured it was kind of like because it was like Sheikh Kaknoon had messaged Matt Hume and said, you bring a team over. Henzo Gracie, all these guys around the world had their teams coming over. And he said that there's this thing, we're going to be in front of all the sheikhs and we're going to grapple against the best in the world. So, okay, cool. So we started, and he goes, okay, so you got to, so we had to have a grapple off. And I grappled, he said, oh, you're going to grapple Ivan. I think I've been there for a while. And then Ivan Salaberry came in, a Gracie black belt came to the school. And then I came in one night. I thought I was going to Abu Dhabi. He goes, oh, no, you got to grapple Ivan to go. And I'm like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting this. I just showed up with it. So I grappled him. I beat him in the gym. And I was the one able to go to Abu Dhabi. So then it was kind of like getting on this plane. So we prepared for it, but we didn't know what we were really prepared for. But we were submission wrestlers back then. We were ahead of the game where we were doing all the ankles, and back then, at that time, jiu-jitsu wasn't doing ankles at all.
Yeah.
And
it was considered dirty or dishonorable.
Yeah. So Matt fought in Japan, so he learned a lot of the ankles in Japan and did sambo as well. So we had all the ankles back then as well. So we were like, okay, let's go. So we went to Abu Dhabi, and it was everybody gets off the plane. It was like a movie, man. Ola Tiktara, freaking Ken Shamrock, all the people, Chemo, all the fighters from all around the UFC and all around the world. And Mariel Sperry, he was in my division.
Mark Kerr.
Mark Kerr was in there. Rico Rodriguez, all the guys. And we show up, and we're just everybody's in this beautiful gold door handles, like solid gold door handles on the thing. It was just most money you've ever seen. And it was like we got there, and it was awesome. It was amazing. I remember the match though, because
you went 1-1, right?
Pardon me?
I think you went 1-1. I was looking it up. I didn't watch your matches.
Yeah.
But I saw your record.
A good story. Yeah, I got a story on that one too. But the mats were like pillows.
Yeah.
So the wrestler, it wasn't good for the wrestlers because they couldn't get a good shot off. And I think that was because at that time I think Hensel was teaching the shake, so they kind of made it more based for jiu-jitsu. So like the wrestlers,
right.
Well, the wrestlers did really well still, but it was hard to get a shot off. So I remember fighting my first guy from Hobbin Gracie's school, and I beat him. And then I fought Ricardo Almeida from Hensel's school.
I mean, that guy's a legend. Ricardo Almeida.
Yeah.
This is a guy who Danaher talks about is his senior, you know? Like
crazy,
Almeida's like an OG.
Yeah. So we went, I think we went into overtime, but we went no score on the whole time. No score. I was on top. I think he reversed me one time, but it was no score. We were even. And then we went to sudden, I'm not sure if it went to sudden death or it went to a weird decision. All I can say, where it was no points. So then Hensel was yelling from his side of the mat going, no, my guy won. And Matt wasn't as vocal. Matt was like, you won, dude, you won. But Hensel was yelling and screaming.
Yeah. And Henzo's in with the Sheik, right? Like, doesn't he have,
yeah.
He's like, they're boys, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So then, and Matt's like, yo, you got it. You won. You were on top position the whole time. This and that, something like this. But Hensel was yelling. He knew the game. He's on more jiu-jitsu tournaments. He knew the game. And he's yelling for his guy. And then they raised his hand. I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh. So then he went on to get second place, made a lot of loot. If you think he only lost to Mariel Sperry after that.
Yeah.
And it was an awesome experience. But even the shake after, he goes, did you win? I go, no, I didn't win the decision. He kind of was perplexed as well. But you know what? It was a great match. I don't know how they decided on that one, but hey, kind of went. I wish if I could go back again and do it, I would have took it more seriously. I would have gotten better shape. I didn't have much time to get ready for it anyways, but I went at 205. I could have did 185, I think.
So just a question about preparation, because it sounds like you just kind of like got invited and went. Like nowadays, ADCC has gotten so big that people are putting in camps like 3-4 months out or even longer. And a bit when everyone's so skilled and so conditioned and such good athletes, a lot of it sometimes comes down to tactics and who can play the rules better, right? Like a big portion of winning jiu-jitsu tournaments is like who can win the game of jiu-jitsu, who can apply the rule set better. And I'm always wondering when I'm watching like old Abu Dhabi footage, like, did you guys really even know the rules? Like, was there, when you went in there, percentage wise, can you give me a number? How much did you like understand the rules, or did you just go in and like roll, like follow my instinct, be on top, try to go around the legs, like really?
Yeah. Try to get him an ankle lock, try to get a lower body submission, be on top.
Like, did you have a sound understanding of the game within the rule set?
I think the first couple of years it changed a bit. So one time, if they see maybe the wrestlers started doing a little better, they would change it would change.
Huh.
So it depended on who was actually training the Shake, because then Matt started training him, and then
it could influence them, right? It could influence
yeah, it
the
can
rules.
influence them. So the guys weren't in shape because guys were partying and then going next day for the absolute. It was a bit of a crazy show.
Yeah.
But no, we didn't have much time to train, and it was like we were doing MMA, so it was like, okay, every grapple, yeah, we'll go in there and grapple and do this. That's the kind of idea it was. I mean, we've done maybe wrestling tournaments or done some kind of tournaments, but you have an idea. Well, you take the person down, get on top, pass their guard, and that's, try to submit them. Because Contenders was around back then. Contenders was the grappling where Matt he co-holded Kenny Monday and Frank Sharma got some guys in it.
Yes.
It was
Didn't he sub
grappling,
Henderson?
something like that.
I think I think he heel hooked Dan Henderson or something. Might have not. I don't know if it was Contenders or whatever, but I remember watching that footage. It's classic.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was they still had things like that around, so we kind of had somewhat of an idea, but it's totally different now.
Do you follow the sport now? Like when it's ADCC Worlds, do you care at all? Do you follow it? Do you watch it?
I honestly, I wish I did. I don't have the time. Like, I put it on the YouTube at the gym and I kind of watch it that way, but I don't sit down and watch it. I watch MMA. I watch MMA quite often. Like, I watch the UFC. I watch probably every UFC I do. I personally do. My mom does. She's 84 years old. She'll tell you every fighter. She knows every move. She watches every UFC. I mean, when I put a UFC on, she'll watch it from 3 in the afternoon till 10 at night. I'll put one FC on, she watches it all. My mom and dad have always been into it, so it's like they watch it more than I actually do. So it's always on in the house.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to switch gears here before we get out of here. Let's talk about like your acting career, and I know you've worked with like some really famous actors and actresses, helping them prepare for roles, and you've been in movies yourself. How did you get into acting?
I think I was in '88. I think I did my first extra job or something like that. Then back in the day was the series 21 Jump Street, MacGyver, Sentinel, Booker. I used to do stunts and acting on that because they had a lot of guys playing gangsters, so I used to play like numerous gangsters on those shows. There was so much being filmed here that I did really well back then because there was so much being filmed here. So, and then I started doing theater and plays and studied conservatory and acting. So I was doing stunts, and then I started studying the acting so I could do my own acting and my own stunts. And that's led to be able to do movies with Jackie Chan and Jet Li and a lot of different big names. I've been like Mark. I did it with The Rock. Me and Junior just did Smash Machine. Junior's got a really good scene with The Rock coming out.
That actually looks really awesome. Like when I first heard that The Rock was going to play Mark Kerr, I was like, I don't know. Like, we'll see. I don't really think much of movies nowadays, to be completely honest with you. But then I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh my God, this actually looks fucking awesome. Like I have to see this. This is crazy. And then I found out that you were involved. I'm like, oh, well, obviously I'm going to watch this. Mark Kerr is a legend, like that guy is fucking awesome.
Yeah. He had a good director, Benny Safdie. He knew he was picking the real guys. He wasn't playing around. And then The Rock had his hands totally in the casting. And different kind of auditions nowadays. It's interesting that I like the way it's changing. It's done away from the phoniness into more real people who can act. It's still a very accomplished skill, but they want more real. And he casted that. And I'll tell you right now, I always knew The Rock was a good actor, but seeing him play Mark Kerr, you're gonna blow you guys away.
Awesome.
He's got it down to the fused neck bone into the eye, the eyes just being on painkillers. The guy, he nailed it. Nailed it.
When I saw the trailer, I was like, that doesn't even look like The Rock. It looks exactly like Mark Kerr. Like, what kind of facial prosthetics do they have on him? He looks totally different. I'm very excited. Describe in one word working with The Rock. Or a couple words, whatever.
I think it's just there's only been a few actors in this world that I can say that carry that presence, and he's one of them. It's just a presence, an energy in the room. There's a presence that's powerful about him, but not acting powerful.
Mhm.
And there's not many, but there's only a few actors that I've worked with throughout my career, and he's definitely one of them.
How do you adapt fighting for film? You know, like going from functional, effective fighting to like fighting that looks good on camera.
So I, being a stuntman for over, I don't know, 20 some years, there I've done a lot. I've choreographed a lot of my fight scenes and done fight scenes and worked with some of the best stuntmen like Jackie Chan. The Asian stunt teams, the guys are amazing. And then it came in, MMA started coming in and being kind of cool, like cool. And then you had these coordinators that actually don't know MMA, and you can tell when you watch a movie. And then you're starting to get now the new breed of guys who are actually training in MMA or training Jiu Jitsu, and now you're starting to see better stuff. I've always been a stuntman that, yeah, I like to take a good punch in a movie. I like to take a good kick in a good movie. Like I'm not saying a straight on punch, but you can catch me, and you can catch me with a kick, and you can grab me, you can slam, or I can slam me. That I want it real. I don't like a lot of the fakeness, but I think that comes from whoever the coordinator is. If they're not, there's a lot of old school guys or guys that aren't qualified to do it. Do a fight scene, and you can tell when you watch it, you know? And then you can tell the guys that actually know, and there's a little bit, there's contact. You need some contact there in the fight scenes. You have to.
Mhm. Is it similar to almost like pro wrestling in the way that things are sold, like the way you have to kind of sell impact and make it like I noticed because I've done a couple things on camera, like not the podcast, but like a couple of promos
Yeah.
for my gym, and then I'll watch it back and I'm like, I look so flat. Like you have to almost in front of the camera, it's like everything looks flatter. You almost need to
Yeah,
overact
you gotta,
things to make it look normal, I guess, if that
yeah,
makes
you gotta,
sense.
yeah, you gotta sell it. You gotta sell the whole thing. Even if they didn't kick you that hard, I don't. We'll see if the scene makes the Smash Machine, but Kaio Bigfoot Machado, I was training him in it,
Yeah.
and I was telling him low kick me for real, and he was low kicking me for real. So I was like, but it's like you still have to give it a little bit more facial expressions
Yeah.
and energy. You have to, because just hitting a punch is not going to be. You have to give it something.
Mhm.
So it is pro wrestling toned down a bit.
Are you a fan of pro wrestling at any point in your life?
No, I would never.
Really? That
I yeah, it's funny. Like as a little kid, oh yeah, Hulk Hogan, this and that, but I always knew it was fake, and I don't know why I didn't like it. I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, that's
I
fair.
just did. I just didn't.
People back then when you were a kid probably like a lot of people didn't even know if it was fake or not, you know? A lot of people thought that it
Yeah,
was
well, I think
real.
people now don't. I know.
They call that
They
kayfabe, right? Like keep kayfabe, keeping it like real in the eyes of the public. Nowadays it's like I don't know if you've watched it at all lately. It's hard to watch, I find, even the modern shit. I tried to go back and watch the new stuff and I just can't. I just can't get into it because it's just not the same for me. Um Okay, I want to be respectful of your time. We've gone an hour now, and to be honest, I could go like another hour. This has flown by. It's been so cool talking to you. I have a quick couple like rapid fire questions. I'm looking for like
Sure.
short answers. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is acting stressful?
No.
What do you enjoy more, acting or fighting? I didn't think you'd have to think about this that much. That's interesting.
Oh God, yeah, it's different. But yeah, it's a hard one, man. I have to say at this, I have to say fighting, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close.
You said fighting?
It brings that. Yeah, I have to say fight. I do like fighting, but I love acting. It depends on what I'm doing for the acting role. But if I have two of my favorite things. It's like they pull different things out of me. Like it's always like I always crave a good fight. I have to say. So
At some point from now until you die, do you think you'll ever get into another fight?
oh yeah, guaranteed.
Nice. God, I hope so.
Yeah, my son, he's the one that calms me down after time, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a beauty. Okay, what's more stressful, fighting or watching your son or wife fighting?
Well, watching my son or wife fighting, because I don't like my mentality when I fight, it doesn't really, I love it. So,
So true.
but yeah, I'm not as stressed when they fight because I know that I put everything into them.
Is it more stressful to watch Junior or Julia fight? Are they in the room? They're listening to the answer?
No, they're not. But I'd probably say Jules.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How is it working with Rampage, Jackson?
Oh man, it was comedy, dude. He's crazy, man. And
He to me, he seems like you see him in an interview, you see him on the podcast. He is exactly the way that you would think like he is. Like he doesn't seem fake at all. He doesn't seem like he puts on anything for the cameras. He is who he is, man. That's who he is.
yeah, he is who he is. It was a awesome training him, but it was like I aged probably 15 years doing it because it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't him, because I love him. It was the people, the sharks around him,
Oh,
and I was
really?
protecting them.
Mm.
So it was his managers and all the rest that were people that were stealing from him and trying to, and I was there to protect him, and he knows that. And
Yeah.
you know, like I said, I could write another book just on that alone. Let alone that what happened in my gym. That kind of stuff happened when I was training Rampage Jackson.
Yeah, he's been very vocal about, speaks very highly of you. So that's super cool. Cause I mean, that guy, when I was just starting to get into UFC, like I missed kind of the pre-modern era. And when I got in, it was like Rampage, Forrest Griffin, Chuck Liddell, Shogun. Like those were the guys to watch. And it was like a super special time. And man, I remember watching Rampage knocking people out and like, fuck, he is a legend. He was so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Who was your toughest opponent?
I think my toughest opponent, I'll probably say, I have to say Dan Severn probably was one of my toughest opponents. He's just a big beast.
Such
So
a
it was like
beast.
I hit him. Yeah, I hit him with everything. He kept coming. You know, he kept coming. He's a big dude.
Was the next question was, who is the strongest opponent you ever fought? Would it also be Dan Severn?
I think Jermaine Andre is a pretty strong dude. It's a different strength. It was like that explosive strength. You got those guys that are wrestlers. I mean, you got those guys that are just really explosive. You got to wear them out later. He was exceptionally strong.
Is wrestling the best base for MMA?
I believe so.
Last question. What is more important for a young fighter? A winning record, an exciting style, or charisma out of the cage?
Well, me personally, or because the
No, like
organization.
to make it. Not you personally, but like what do you think will help a fighter make it?
I say you need a exciting style. I have to say, because you can keep talking. You only talk mess as long as you can, and if you're born and you're winning, they don't want you either. It's exciting style seems to
It's true. You can win a
It seems
couple.
that
You can win a cup, win all your fights. But if all you do is hold someone down and it's not fun to watch, then it's not spectator friendly. Then the promoters don't want you. You could lose
yeah.
a couple and win a lot of your fights. And if you're exciting, that'll go, I think, a lot further in terms of your marketability, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think so.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow, what a conversation. I'd like to give you the floor. Anything you want to talk about? Any products you want to plug? Any social media? Anything like that? Go ahead.
No, I think that just follow us. I pretty much I think yeah. What I want to talk about is what I'm over the years of teaching and my journeys around the world of doing martial arts and what I've been through in my life um is molded me into a different person now, in the fact that because of all these hardships and all these things I've been through, that I'm able to give back more, and it comes out in in the way I teach now. I don't just teach fighting; I teach mindset, accountability, spirituality, and being a good person. And what comes from inside, it's more of the mind, body, spirit. And there's a lot of issues in life today, and it's hard for as a lot of my clients are men. They feel like they're frozen. Coming from being a father or a provider for a family, it's a lot of pressure on men nowadays, I'm see it more and more, and more clients come to me for mentorship or counseling, and I'm working on building a program for men to come and train martial arts, do outdoor things, but also deal with their problems as well. Deal with some of the things they can't talk to, because who can you talk to? I'm not going to go talk to some psychiatrist that has never been through something I've been through
Right.
before. And you're and tell me from a book, and I can't. Me personally, that's not for me. I can't relate. And what I did was I had to go find something else outside of that, and I actually went to the Amazon jungle and did some healing with some of the Shabibo healers there, and I had some journeys that changed the way I thought on just the world and life and what's important. And I brought that knowledge back, and it's changed me and made me a better person, a better father, better coach, a better mentor. And I'm gonna change a lot of the way I train people, is having programs for men, maybe 5 to 6 to 10 groups of 10, where we train martial arts. We go into the forest, we do things, and we talk about issues that we can't talk about with to anybody in this world, so we can get it off our chest, you know? And just things like that is what I'm focused on, and I'm gonna have thinking about opening up a little bit of a retreat, but I'm still having this program now that I'm building, and people coming to me for doing that now in spurts in between what I'm doing movies or training my wife and son.
I feel like we don't really have a lot of places left in society for like just men to be like, to be kind of exclusively for men. Like we have to include everybody now. And I think it's important for there to still be like a couple sacred places for dudes to just shoot the shit and talk, like you said. And like I think a lot of the time when we're around women, we are guarded because we don't want to offend them. And sometimes it can be pretty easy to offend women. It's just the nature of it. It's just true. And that's why I you know like I play on a couple hockey teams, and afterward you're in the locker room with just surrounded by dudes, and it's like we need that time. We still need that time uh to have those spaces just for men. I know there's people that are probably hearing this, some feminists or whatever that that just discuss them, but man, it is the truth. Like we still need those spaces. Dudes do. So that's really cool. Is there a name of this program that you're
Well, it's the fearless way, and it's just my mindset that I've always had, and it's never quitting and going into the storm and dealing with it, but being an empathetic, good person, being a great father, being a great husband. standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves, and the fact that just touching it. I don't know if a feminist will have a problem with what I'm doing, because we're going to be better people when we come out of this. It's just, we need to talk about it. It's always been looked down upon if a man cries or he talks about his problems, he feels weak. But hey, man, how many times you been driving your car and you got freaking bills out the yin yang, and you got to feed 4 kids at home, and you're running a freaking gym, and they shut you down for COVID. You know what I'm saying?
Dude.
What feelings are you happy? No, you're not happy. I feel like freaking breaking down.
Yeah.
But I got to keep going. You know
true.
what I'm saying? And it's like, just saying that and somebody hearing that is, thanks, Kitty, is, hey, man, you feel the same as me? Yeah, man, people think, oh, yeah, you're Gibson, you're not scared of nothing. No, dude, I get those days too where I want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. But I want to quit, but I got to speak about it and let you know that me and you are the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And we both have those same feelings inside, like the loss of a parent. Yeah. You just don't keep trucking on. Hey, man, that hurts me inside. I lost my father. I think about him every day. Hey, you lost your parent? Yeah, man. Hey, we got something in common. It's okay. We can talk about it. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need. That's what we need. And we don't have a place like that.
Yeah.
It
is okay to cry, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I find that I cry, mostly when I think of like beautiful things, and like I just celebrate. Yesterday we had a roll-a-thon for one of my students that died of cancer, and like every time I think about him, I want to cry. And when I had to like say some words there, and I was like, holy shit, like if I think about it too much, I just start crying, right? But that's not something that should be. It's not something that we should try to hide. It's not something that it should be shameful or make you less of a man, right? In fact, I think it actually makes you more of a man, because you're more comfortable with your emotions, and like crying over beautiful things or beautiful moments where people come together for a good cause, I think is like it actually shows how strong you are more than anything, right?
Exactly.
Like, I don't think strength is measured by how much you can suppress your emotions.
No, and you know that. I know that. But society doesn't know that.
Right.
And then the way they marketed it, and most men don't know that. So they just feel weird, or they feel weird doing it, or they just feel built up inside till they break.
Yeah, it's not good to bottle that inside. There's a reason why it almost hurts when you want to like let out emotion and you're struggling not to. It's because you're not supposed to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
What about these tapes where you're getting into fights at your banquets? I want to see these tapes. Can we? When are you gonna? Where would you release stuff like that?
Well, I know. I don't think about it. I'm not the best at technical stuff. So once I find the VHS tape, which we have 2 storages, we're just in the middle of a move. We built this house here, and we haven't fully moved in. I got to get that. Once I get the storage, I'm going to find that tape. I'm going to get that on digital, and I'd probably start my Instagram and then put it on YouTube after.
Sweet.
Get somebody to do it for me, but I'll probably put it on my Instagram and do a little write-up on it and just say this is what happened that night, and you'll see everything that happened. It's all on tape, man. And the story tells itself.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What about social media? Where can we find you?
I'm on pretty much. I run on Instagram at Lance Gibson SR Senior. And that's pretty much my handle. I don't go on Twitter, and I don't Facebook. I kind of just look on it, but I don't really do much on Facebook. I'm more on Instagram.
Yeah, me too. I'm not on Facebook anymore. COVID killed that for me. I saw what everybody who I knew and loved. I saw exactly what they were thinking, and I thought, I'm gonna either hate you or hate myself if I stay on here. So I'm gonna just peace and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say before you get out of here, Lance?
No, man. Just nah.
Well,
No,
I really
I'm good.
appreciate
I'm
your
good.
time. Honestly, for me, it was one of the most enjoyable episodes. It's just great to pick your brain and get some old stories. A guy in martial arts who's like a pioneer and truly done it all. Thank you so much for your time and everything you've done for the sport. Thanks a lot, Lance.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you, man.
Guys, if you want to support the show, check out the links in the bottom. Hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next week. Everyday Jiu Jitsu podcast is everything you need to know about Jiu Jitsu. Take care.